welcome. Y'all, I feel like last week I did not land in my brain with where we paused. And so I have been trying to figure that out this afternoon. Please tell me if I'm wrong. And I promise I'm going to pray over us. But did we stop, I think, at Song of Songs, chapter 6, verse 3. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. He feedeth among the lilies. And we talked about how really in the Hebrew it's like, I to my beloved, or I toward my beloved.
We were there this passage.
Okay. Because the next verse is, thou art beautiful, O my love, is Tirzah. Did we talk? I don't think we talked about that, because I brought something. Okay. Father God, thank you so much. Thank you for you. Thank you for this house. Oh, thank you for your love for us. Lord, I pray that you would help our minds to slow down and our hearts to open to you, that you would challenge us and pull us into new places, that we would experience your aroma and become you, your aroma, just the heart of you in this place. God, awaken those things, those places in us that have been sleeping for so long. We are waiting on you. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so we're going to pick up at chapter 6, verse 4. Thou art beautiful, O my love, as Tirzah, comely as Jerusalem, terrible as an army with banners. Listen, here's one thing I loved about last week. Like, you guys talked. It wasn't just me yapping at you the whole time. Welcome, welcome. Someone's entering that tried to run me over in the parking lot if you heard some honking and commotion, I'm just saying. So, tonight I want you guys to, interact with me. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if you have questions that I may or may not be able to answer, but I love to hear and dig into. In this verse, There's some really amazing things happening. So he starts out, this is the king speaking to the Shulamite. This is a picture of Christ speaking to you. And so this is something that I want you guys to hear personally. You are beautiful, my beloved, like Tirzah. It means you are beautiful, and really it reads like beautiful you. It means beautiful or pleasing or excellent, but it's not just something that has to do with physical attractiveness. In the Old Testament, beauty it was also connected to wholeness. You know how we've talked about shalom has obviously the meaning of peace, but it has to do with completeness or wholeness. Well, in Hebrew, beauty has a lot to do with something that is whole or complete, meaning that something is beautiful because it is exactly what it was created to be. You guys follow that? Like when you're operating in the wholeness of what you were designed to be, there's this beauty in that. And so the word for beauty here has to do with that. It's a profoundly biblical concept, and it's really consistent through the Old Testament, and I love that in this. So it's not just, hey, you're attractive. It's you are exactly what you were designed to be, and that is stunning. That is excellent. That is attractive. And so, like I said, in this verse, the Hebrew places the pronoun after the adjective. So it reads like beautiful you. So the emphasis is landing on you. It's landing on the Shulamite. It's personal for her. It's very direct in the way that he speaks it. And then he says, my beloved or my companion. It's a different word here in the Hebrew than it has been in other places when he calls her as his beloved. This one, I would say, has a little bit more emphasis on her as a companion, where the other one emphasizes a little bit more affection. This one emphasizes a little bit more companionship. And I think that's important to the verse because of what we're about to unpack. So here when he's saying, thou art beautiful, oh my love, it's, oh my companion, the one that I share that closeness with. Then he compares her to Tirzah. In the Hebrew, Tirzah, and I'm trying to slow this down because there's a lot to it. Tirzah is a city. It's a physical location. The word for Tirzah means delight, or like a city of delightsomeness, I think is how I've read it in some contexts. But I would say it has to do with delight. Now, it comes from a root word, ratzah, which means to be pleased with, and we've actually touched on this word in a different chapter back earlier in the Song of Solomon. The word has to do with to be pleased with, but more specifically to satisfy a debt. So it's the same word that's used in Isaiah 40, verse 2, if you guys are writing down any cross-reference notes. In Isaiah 40, verse 2, it says that Jerusalem's warfare is ended and her iniquity is pardoned or satisfied in some translations. And the verb there is the same one from that root, ratzah. So it has to do with something being pardoned or this debt being satisfied. And so as he's speaking to her, he's saying, you are beautiful, you are complete. Like your beauty is because you are operating in the design that you were made to operate in. Oh my love, oh my companion, as Tirzah, as something that I take delight in, as a debt that has been satisfied. Tirzah. Yeah, in verse 4. In the Hebrew, the letter is kind of like we say pizza. You know how it's not just a Z. We don't say pizza. We say pizza. So in the Hebrew, it has that TZ sound, Tirzah. What he's saying to her is, listen, I take delight in you. because a debt has been satisfied on your behalf, right? I've paid a price for you. And then he says again, comely as Jerusalem. So he's telling her twice that she's beautiful, but these are two different words for it. So the word here for comely has to do with loveliness, but it's just an added layer. It's almost if you traveled somewhere and saw, now I'm just speaking for myself, saw a beautiful building and you were in all of the architecture and you said, wow, that thing is amazing. It is stunning. You've given it two adjectives to describe it, but you're just layering the awe that you feel because of what you're seeing. And so here it's similar in the way that he's describing her. You're beautiful, you are comely. It's not to just be repetitive here. It's to intensify the layers of what he's seeing in her. So he says, you are comely as Jerusalem. So that word comely, again, it has to do with being lovely or pleasant. It has an emphasis on harmony. And I would say it kind of, it's a good pairing to the word that was used for beautiful, because that beauty has the emphasis on being beautiful because it is complete. So it's like beauty with dignity, or beauty with purpose, beauty with belonging. And so we're just seeing an expansion in the way that he is describing her. She's not just attractive, she's possessing something. And so he describes her as Jerusalem, which is interesting. Do any of you guys have a translation open right now on this verse that you can read that's different than mine? As lovely as? Does anybody say anything else? What about the last part of that verse? As awesome as an army with banners. Mine says terrible as an army with banners. Anybody else? Majestic as troops with banners. Cool. Yeah, all of those are really cool. So, in reference to Jerusalem, is there what stands out to you guys when you hear Jerusalem? The holy city, yeah. What else? Anything? Capital? Yeah. Spoken of in Revelation? Yeah, it is. Yeah. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Yeah, yeah, and of course it would be, because it has so much intended purpose, right? So it's going to be the most attacked, right? So Jerusalem is something that represents the dwelling place of God, the center of worship, this place of covenant, the city of peace. It's a royal city. It's the place where, I would say, where heaven and earth met, right? So she's being compared to Jerusalem, not just being told like, hey, you're as pretty as a city, or you're as pretty as an important city. What he's saying to her, what he's saying to you is, you have become my dwelling place. Because Jerusalem is the dwelling place of God. It's a profound statement, and a deeply symbolic statement. And it's what the New Testament later declares, right? Do you not know that you are God's temple? And so this movement of Scripture is from a place to a people. And that's been the intention all along. And I notice the progression, from Eden to the tabernacle to Jerusalem to Jesus, the church, the New Jerusalem, right? Each step is God moving closer to us. And that destination is not a building. The destination is a people. So when the bride is compared to Jerusalem, she's being compared to the very thing that Jerusalem represented, which was the place where heaven and earth meet. And here's the other part. Jerusalem is a place where sacrifice and reconciliation happened. So it wasn't just about this place where God lived. It was where broken people came to be reconciled. It's the meeting place between holiness and mercy. Yeah.
I saw a bumper sticker like that.
Did you?
In red, white, and blue with the USA in the middle.
Yeah, gotcha. He said USA is in the middle of Jerusalem. That's funny. Love that. I love that. So the bride has now become someone through whom others encounter God. You have now become someone through whom others encounter God. And I've said this over and over through the Song of Solomon, but you carry reconciliation into this world. That's what this is. You guys know Paul says later that we are ambassadors for Christ. So that's Jerusalem becoming a person. John says in Revelation, I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. The city becomes the bride. And so it's this amazing moment where these images kind of collapse into one another, because Jerusalem was never about streets. It was always about God's covenant people. So when Jesus tells the bride, you are as lovely as Jerusalem, he is anticipating the very imagery that Revelation later unveils in the text. So I love that it moves from this picture of Tirzah to this picture of Jerusalem, because, in the comparison to Tirzah, you are the one that he delights in. You are the one that he paid the price for. And in Jerusalem, because of that, you are the one that I dwell in and with. So love is not stopping at admiration. It's not just about attraction. It moves into this abiding, which is that message that Pastor Vince has been, teaching over and over and over to us, right? This is about abiding. It's the heartbeat of covenant. It's that place where we move into the closeness of intimacy because we understand, to whatever degree we can, that, man, he actually loves me like that. And because he does, I want to abide. I want to stay close. Did you want to say something, Barbara? Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, it's a full picture of that promise. I love that. Thank you. Full picture of that promise of Christ. Man, full picture of the hope of our future, the full picture of him. It's just extraordinary. And it is meant to be that full picture of reconciliation. And that is us. That's what he's saying over us, which is incredible. And then, of course, my translation says, terrible as an army with banners. It's an interesting word. It's a word that means awesome, fearsome, majestic, awe-inspiring, formidable. I have seen some translations of this word that are a little bit different than what I see in the Hebrew, but it's meant to show things that inspire reverence rather than terror. But it describes something that is so weighty and glorious that it commands attention. And so we're seeing this progression from you, being beautiful and lovely to now awe-inspiring. And that is how he is describing you. Love has not made you weak. Love has not made her weak. It has made you formidable, powerful, inspiring, commanding, terrible as an army with banners. So remember, we talked about this before, that army with banners is something that's ordered and it's united and it's strong and confident and recognizable, and it is advancing with purpose. When we think about those armies with banners over them, we know who they are and whose they are, right? And where they're going. And it is just, it's something that makes you pause and and recognize, man, the strength and the power of that, right? And so that is what he's speaking over her. That is what he's speaking over you. Because mature love produces this extraordinary strength. And I think we miss that. I know we've talked some, and Pastor Vince has talked some as well, about that we're not meant to walk in this relationship with the Lord like defeated, like, oh my gosh, I'm just horrible and I'm just off. Anyone who's genuinely walking in intimacy with God reaches a place, man, through the things that he drags us through, where we know that we're confident, not because we've got it figured out, know what's going on, but because no matter what happens, he has got me. I don't have to worry. Someone does something horrible to me, I'm not worried about it. I might pitch a fit for half a second, and then I wake up and realize, why am I even doing that? He has got me. I am strengthened for this. I am purposed. I am ready. And however my life is moving within whatever's happening around me, it's okay. It doesn't matter. And so the more we walk with him, the more that power and that confidence and that strength grows, because we're completely relying on him. Completely. Have you experienced that, at least in moments in your walk with him? Yeah. It's such a good, honestly, it's such a good measuring stick to be able to pause and go, okay, if I'm walking in that confidence, then I feel like I have been spending more time with him, letting myself just slow down on everything else and hear from him. When I start to have anxiety that rises instead, or just generalized fear that rises instead, that's a measuring stick that tells me, ooh, I need to check myself and like where my focus is. Am I really focused on him? Am I talking with him? Am I spending time with him? Not, am I checking off this list of have I prayed 6 times today and have I read at least 3 chapters? It's not that. It's that when my focus becomes the world, when my focus becomes my circumstances, then I tend to lose confidence and operate in fear or anxiety. But the more I'm focused on him and the eternal and what's going on in my relationship with him, the more that strength and confidence just naturally flows from him, not from me. So I love watching this moment in the Shulamite, because again, from here forward for the rest of this book, you are going to see a powerhouse unleashed in her. And it's incredible, because mature love produces this extraordinary strength, and you will start to recognize it in yourself. And it honestly, it should make you undone before him. Early on in this, she lived so wounded. She was immature, remember? She was dark but comely. She's hiding, she's unsure, and she was very misunderstanding of herself and of others early on in the book. And so now, look at her. Look at her. Look at how she's developed. It's incredible. And I take those moments to look at that in myself. When I think back to the me in my young adulthood, I don't even recognize myself. I used to go into places with very, very broken women and share my testimony, and I felt so detached from that person, because I don't even feel like I really know her anymore, because God has journeyed me through so much from there to here. And so I think it's amazing to pause with him and let him show you where he's brought you, where you guys started. You've been on a relationship journey for a while. Even if you haven't been completely surrendered to him, but for a short amount of time, you have been on a journey with him a long time on this earth. So in this, he's so consistent with speaking to who she is becoming, not what she has done. Always who she's becoming. If I had to pick one title for every teaching that I would ever do for the rest of my life, it would be becoming. That's it. Like, that's the journey of our lives. We are becoming. We are constantly becoming. And I think it's an incredibly important thing to pay attention to, because we have to be intentional. What am I becoming? am I becoming more like him, or am I becoming more like this world? Am I becoming more like driven by my own ambitions, or am I becoming more surrendered? Am I becoming more like the aroma of Christ, or am I becoming more like something that probably doesn't smell really great? You know what I mean? So we're just constantly becoming, and we do need to pause and just check that with him. Like, hey, can I just do a check-in, God? Listen, I had to sit with him a minute earlier today because it's not often that something gets under my skin, especially with my work. My work is like high-paced, extremely stressful. Ask Leslie. That's why she looked like she was sleeping out there when we walked in. And it's even more so right now. And this week, I had an agent do something that was not so nice. And I maybe didn't respond to her the best way that I could have. Because I don't mind confrontation, and I was trying to handle it in a very diplomatic way. But if I was being honest about it, I was being a little snippy. I wanted her to know that I was like more than not okay with the way she handled the situation. And I should have slowed down and checked myself. And so even today, I'm like, okay, God, like I have let some pride come in. I have. I've had this attitude with this person. Go, Laura.
Okay, this has always been something I struggle with, though. Because in the beginning of my salvation, I was the biggest doormat ever because I thought I had to be.
Yeah.
But doesn't there have to be a point in time, even in the Bible, I mean, we continually have to respond? Like, isn't there a time when we just say, hey, you know what you did was wrong?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is.
I'm not saying that you were right, but I'm just saying, you know, hey, sometimes when people, you know, I feel like people aren't accountable for nothing nowadays, and that's why the
I
world
know.
is so crazy.
I hear
I'm
you.
at this place where I just want to shout out and go, you know what? It's about time. But then on the other hand, God goes, yeah, but look at all the stuff that you did. And
Right.
You know, I feel like, or is it Satan reminding me? I don't know. But, you know, it's that battle of
I can tell you this and that's such a good point, and people ask this all the time, and in fact, that's what we're discussing in my next business-focused Bible study is how to work in business in strength and humility. Like, what does that look like? Because that's a tough balance, is it not? How do you do this life and not be a doormat? I got you, Scott. I will tell you this for me. I had to do a heart check, right? Because I did need to approach what happened. Here's the most generic way I can say this. I work for a broker. Agents can make errors or do something that is unethical. And we really need to talk with that agent, and then if something isn't resolved, we go to the broker. Well, an agent accused me of doing something, and instead of coming and talking to me, she went to my broker. And so, and of course, my broker knew that like this was an error, like this was not something unethical or wrong, but you've made an error. And so she didn't even tell me for a couple of days. And then she was like, hey, apparently there was a glitch in the system, and can you fix this? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, but why are you telling me this? And she said, well, this agent came to me and said blah, blah, blah. And so I went back to the agent, and I thought, I had sat on it for a moment, and I thought, I have allowed this to digest. I'm not lashing out. And I said to her, I would really have appreciated it if you had approached me instead of my broker, because this was an accident. What I understood later, to answer your question, is that my heart was in a very prideful place. And that's what matters. I should have let myself sit with God with that a little bit longer, and then approached her and saying, listen, I am so sorry if something that I did gave you the impression of XYZ. I apologize for that. It was actually an error. It's being fixed. But it would have been so great if you would have just talked to me about it. instead of misunderstanding something. And so it was more about my heart. And I don't have an issue with confrontation. That's part of my problem. And so I really try to slow it down. And there does have to be a balance. I think that when we approach things that are difficult, then we need to make sure that, like, is my heart soft? And is this coming from pride? Or am I truly trying to, like, point out a wrongdoing and move through whatever this hard situation is out of love, right? Because that's the question, is the foundation love? Yeah.
So it's
How you confront it and what is your motivation? Truly, what is your motivation? Because my motivation was not right when I handled it the way that I did. And then I texted Leslie and I told her I needed Jesus. I did. Scott, go ahead. I know you wanted to chime in. I'm so sorry. Oh, okay. Yeah, so what we're seeing in the Shulamite is how she is like just maturing through things. And he is calling out who she is. And what I love that we're about to see in just a minute, we're not quite there, is that he calls her consistently the same as he has called her this entire book. He didn't say anything different about who she is earlier in the book. He said the same thing, even though she, like, her actions, the maturity that she's walking in didn't look like that yet, right? But this verse for me is him speaking to who you are, whose you are, and what you are carrying. You guys hear that? Who you are, whose you are, and what you are carrying. Who you are is someone that has been bought with a price. Whose you are is his and his dwelling place. And what you carry is the unbelievable power to reconcile. That's this verse. So it describes something so ordered and so powerful that it overwhelms the observer. That is you. Guys, that is you. It's not something to take lightly. This art that I brought in is something that I made several years ago. I found that frame in an old antique shop, and it's a mirror. And I painted over the mirror and completely blacked it out and put the verse on there because I wanted it to hang in my house as a reminder that it doesn't matter what I see, it matters what he says. And so I want you all, when you digest the Song of Songs, to remember it doesn't matter what you see, it matters what he says. Truly. It doesn't matter what you think your weaknesses are. It doesn't matter what you think your strengths are. It matters who he is telling you you are, whose you are, who you are, and what you carry. And I think that this verse is extraordinarily powerful. And then it goes on to the next one. Turn away thine eyes from me, for they have overcome me. Just the first part of this verse, what do some of your translations say? Yes.
Turn your eyes from me, they overwhelm me. Your hair is like a flock of goats descended from Gilead.
David doesn't even know what that is because he wasn't here for that part before. Does anybody say anything else? Yeah, that's one of those translations that does not excite me. What translation is that? Okay. Yeah, I don't know why some of them. There's only a couple that have that in there that say confused. That's not the translation. Anybody else have any other words? No? Okay, so turn away your eyes from me, for they have overwhelmed me. We'll hang on the first part of this verse for a second. So turn away your eyes from me. So to turn or to change direction or to move aside. It's not a harsh verb. It's almost playful in this verse, I would say. So it's not like leave and go away and stop. It's simply just turn. And it's very specific to the eyes, and we've talked about the eyes a lot. But keep in mind that, here we're talking about the eyes having to do with attention and affection, focus and intention. So throughout Scripture, eyes reveal the heart. So he's not saying your beauty overwhelms me. He says your eyes. Why would he say your eyes overwhelm me? What's your guess? Gazing at him so strongly? Yeah, what else? Yeah, eyes are the window of the soul. That's good.
Mine says that it confused him.
We'll talk about it. Stand by. Any other thoughts? I mean, stir up the poet inside yourselves, you guys. Your eyes have overwhelmed me.
I noticed that we as human beings have a hard time really looking one another in the eye.
Yeah.
Because it is so revealing, what everything you're feeling, everything that you're truly thinking. Whether or not the other person is able to perceive it or not, you think that's what's coming out of your eyes.
Yeah.
Like for my husband and I, even when we're alone together, if we look at each other for too long trying to be like romantic or whatever, we just collapse and we almost because that is so much. That we're like, oh, this is stupid, this is crazy. We can't handle it.
Right.
Can't handle it. And he's the person that knows me and loves me the best.
Yeah. And the one you would feel safest with, I would imagine.
I feel safest with.
Yeah.
And, it's hard.
Yeah, it's a very vulnerable thing, right? I think eyes communicate relationship. And if someone's really, really intently focusing on you, it would show their affection. It would show their intention. It shows their desire. It shows all of those things, right? And so I feel like if there is a really sustained, look at someone, if there is a very deep, intensive connecting point with the eyes with someone, that it can express what words can't, or at least we feel like it does, which is what you're saying. And so let's keep going into this, and then we'll continue to, I don't know, kind of brainstorm what we think. But so he's saying, turn away your eyes from before me or from directly in front of me. So we see that this is like face to face, this exchange that's happening. It's a true face to face encounter. So she is looking directly at him with intention. So again, he's not talking about just her face or just her beauty. It's truly isolating her eyes. And then it says, for they overwhelm me or captivate me. It's a verb in the Hebrew that's very rare, and from a root that is rare. But it has to do with being overcome. It can mean being inspired. It can mean being kind of unnerved or enraptured. There are some Hebrew scholars that would even say, conquered, right? It's meant to evoke so much emotion, what's happening in this verb, that something is being stirred and overcome, or displaying great strength from it, or being moved with powerful emotion. So something has affected someone so deeply that it alters their composure, and everyone agrees on that meaning of it.
I want to say maybe it also has something to do with the position of her heart while she's looking at him.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe she is just like, I'm here for you. Whatever, here's all of me.
Yeah.
And because you can look at somebody and be angry. You can look at somebody in a judgment. You can be staring at somebody in disgust.
Yeah.
So obviously that's not what's going on here. Like he is melting, apparently, because she has just bared herself
And think of what we have come out of with her. So, you go back just in the last several verses, and this is someone who got up and moved to chase after him and fought through the streets and fought through the beatings, right? This interaction that she had with religion, right? With people who didn't understand her love, that didn't understand her desire. And then she meets the daughters of Jerusalem who don't understand why he's so special. And then she goes into this just amazing outpouring of her heart describing him. And so just imagine the affection that is so just moved in her for him. And then this is where he speaks. Like, this is where he speaks to respond to that. And so her eyes are everything about showing the desire that she has for him, the surrender that she has toward him, the love that she's saying yes to, like all of those things. And his response to that, his response to her love and her devotion and her surrender is, "Thou art beautiful, O my love," as Tirzah, that delightsomeness, that someone who carries that satisfaction of the debt that's been paid on her behalf, as Jerusalem, as the dwelling place of God, as powerful as an army with banners, as someone who carries reconciliation out there. Turn away your eyes from me, for they have overwhelmed me. You guys, like, that's unbelievable. That is what Jesus says to you. I need you to hear that's what he says to you. Go ahead, Jeff. Yeah. 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 And the coolest part, it's so good. And I hope you guys could hear him. I know he's talking a little bit softly. The coolest part of it is that his feelings for her are not more intensified now. They have always been this, but you're hearing them spoken now. And it's profound to think that this is how the King of Kings feels about you. And I want us to do just like an activation just for a second. Like, can all of us just close our eyes and just keep them closed? I'll tell you when to open your eyes. I want you to think about whatever you have decided is the worst thing that you have ever done, the thing that you just feel or have in the past felt like you just let him down, that you disappointed God. And I want you to imagine him sifting everything that you've walked through in your life and allowing certain things to remain because he knew what it would develop in you. He knew what you would become. He knew how it would change you and mature you and move you. And now I want you to hear him say to you, "You are beautiful. You are beautiful as Tirzah. You are comely as Jerusalem. You are who I delight in. You are who I dwell in. You are who I choose to dwell in. You are powerful as someone who carries reconciliation. You are powerful as someone that others stand in and they just look in awe. And I am so overwhelmed by you. I am so overwhelmed by you." Just turn your eyes for a moment, because you have captivated me. You have caused me to be undone. guys, this is a king. This is a lover of your soul. This is the God of the universe, the creator, the all-powerful, almighty, all-knowing, that can pause in a moment and speak these kind of words to you personally, knowing everything that you have done, and still calling you this, still seeing you this way, and still being undone by his love for you. Now open your eyes. Those are the things that we're meant to sit in. It's not about like consuming knowledge and trying to have everything figured out. It is truly about recognizing that no matter how horrible we've been and the choices that we've made in our life, that he sees the way that he has intended to allow it to develop us, and still is so captivated by us, so overwhelmed by us, that it undoes him. That's astonishing. Could you ever imagine the God of the universe saying something like that about you? I don't even know what to do with it, honestly. The first time I went through this and saw the depth of what was in the Hebrew and the message that was here and his love, and he just wrecked me. I mean, wrecked me. I just sat in it for days. I just cried. It makes you want to love him when you understand the way that he loves you. And that's the entire message. It's the entire message of the New Testament. It's the entire message of the Song of Songs. Is that we would allow ourselves to see the way that he loves us. And we can't help but to respond to it. So then it goes into the next part of the verse. Somebody read it from your translation. Yes. I mean, she's got great teeth, right? And hair, something. Okay. So we go from like the most amazing poetic moment to something about goats and sheep teeth.
I call it the next comedian go, hey, your eyes are, your hair looks like a bunch of goats.
Yeah, it's not really the compliments I'm lining up for, so I'm hoping my husband's not taking notes.
James said you've never seen that on a Hallmark card.
No, you have not. I love that. So we have talked about this before. And I want you guys to remember this in the context that it's in. Sometimes we sit God up on this throne in the sky and forget that he is a God that can be moved, okay? And so he is so moved by you. He is so moved by her that he starts all of this again. Now, there are some reflections of what we unpacked in chapter 4 several weeks ago, this being part of that, if you guys remember it. So I'll go through it a little bit quickly, and you can slow me down if there's something that you're not remembering. But hair can symbolize devotion, separation as in like being set apart, and belonging to God. So hair can be a picture of glory, a picture of covering, identity, strength, life. Remember us talking about this. And a flock of goats is the physical imagery of like these long-haired, dark-haired goats with the hair kind of waving in the wind. It was thought to be beautiful. Because we're not talking about like one just moving up here on this cliffside or mountainside. We're talking about, massive flock of them and their hair just waving. And so there's like in the natural this element of beauty about it. But there's much more symbolism than that. So remember from chapter 4 that goats were something used in sacrifice. In Leviticus 16, 2 goats are used on the Day of Atonement. One is sacrificed, one is sent into the wilderness. We talked about this before. And we talked about how the goat that was sent into the wilderness is where we got the term scapegoat. You guys remember that? So goats can represent sin being transferred and being removed, a picture of guilt being carried away. And so that word for Gilead we talked about as well in chapter 4. Most people will read Gilead in 2 word parts. Gal, which means a heap or a pile of stones, and ad, which is, or odd, which is a witness or a testimony. And so we may have even had a slide on it way back then, I can't remember, but together it means like a mound of testimony. Gilead means a mound of testimony, or a heap of testimony, or a heap of witness. So that's the same name that shows up in Genesis 31. We talked about this as well, where Jacob piles up the stones as a boundary, and Jacob and Laban say, you know, that literally like this heap is a witness between you and me today, and that heap was Gilead in the Hebrew. So it's tied to this agreement or boundary or accountability or this visible reminder of truth. So it actually became a real place. And then to go even deeper into it was that balm of Gilead, which we talked about. In Jeremiah 8:22, it says, "Is there no balm in Gilead?" So it became known later for a place of like healing resin or ointment. And so that kind of expands the meaning of the word. So, originally had to do with being a witness or a testimony, and then later expanded to mean like healing and restoration. So you put it together, and it's not just like this random location or random Hebrew name. It carries this idea of a place where healing is found, a place where truth is established and healing is found. So he calls her as a place of devotion that offers healing. Now, we talked about all that in chapter 4. He is repeating it here. And then this thing about the great teeth that she has, it's very impressive. Thy teeth are like a flock of sheep that are even shorn, which came up from the washing, whereof everyone bare twins, and none among them is barren. And so, it's word for word the same as what it was in chapter 4. Again, what he is saying to her doesn't change. It doesn't matter how mature she was then. It doesn't matter how mature you were 25 years ago. He was saying the same thing over your life then as he is saying today. It's just that now she's beginning to understand it more. Are we beginning to understand it more? Are we beginning to understand the things that he has spoken over us? That's the hope. So it never changes. His word never changes over her. But to remind us of this, your sheep teeth, the way that you receive and process what is given to you, it's clean, it's ordered, it's whole, it's aligned, it's lacking nothing. And so her teeth represent her ability to like chew on the truth, how she processes what she's given. None are missing, none are misaligned. And we talked last time about what does this imply about her ability to receive the truth about herself? Because that was important. It was important that she understand. It's important that we understand not to sit in the pity party of who we are, because if we understand the way God sees us, the things that he says about us, what he calls out over us, to the things that he's purposed us for, then what are we doing? Just slaughtering ourselves. Because those are not the things that he says. And we talked about that a lot more back in chapter 4. And then it goes on in verse 7 and says, "As a piece of pomegranate are thy temples within thy locks." Do any of you guys, here's your pop quiz. Does anybody remember what the pomegranates symbolize or what the word meant? Come on, you guys. I feel like you were here that day, Shane. Many-seeded apple. And why did it matter? It mattered because in the Song of Solomon, back when she fully surrendered herself to him, it was chapter 2, verse 3, when she said, "As the apple tree among the trees of the wood, so is my beloved among the sons. I sat down under his shadow with great delight, and his fruit was sweet to my taste." That was her full surrender of him back in chapter 2. Full out, like, I'm doing this. I know who he is. I'm accepting that. And she took of his fruit. And that fruit was, because he was the one apple tree, the one fruit-bearing tree amongst all of the evergreens in the woods, right, that had nothing to offer, no fruit. And so then he begins to describe her throughout the book in one way as a pomegranate. And a pomegranate is a many-seeded apple. And so it just shows this amazing picture of how just belonging to him equips her to carry something out there. I mean, it's an amazing, amazing picture. So now she'll have like all of this seed to carry. Then it goes into, and I'm not camping there because we have already unpacked that before. Verse 8, there are 80 queens and 80 concubines and virgins without number. Does everyone's read something similar to that? That's a pretty literal translation. That's good. Is that basically everybody's? So 60 is simply the number 60. And so I don't know that it's really meant to be symbolic here in the way of like pay attention to this specific number, because the way it reads to me is that we are just showing emphasis on a large group. And so sometimes Hebrew, especially Hebrew poetry, will use numbers to communicate abundance without trying to be specific about a certain amount. But what we're seeing is an escalation. So basically he's saying there are a lot, okay? There are a lot of queens, and there are 80 concubines, so there are even more concubines. But so he's saying like these are the 60, kind of like it's presenting categories of something. Like these are the 60 of the queens, and these are the 80 of the concubines. Now, queen here is the word for queen, but it has to do with reigning or ruling. The root is melech, which is the Hebrew word for king, to reign, to rule, to be a king. So this is the feminine form of that for queen. So this is not ordinary women. These are women of status. And then you have 80, a larger number of the concubines. And that, we're going up in number. But the word for concubines refers to women who belong to the king's household. And pay attention to this. They belong to the king's household, but they did not possess the full legal or covenantal status of a wife, right? So they were desired, but they were possessed. Like, they belonged to someone. And they were beautiful, but they lacked covenant intimacy. They lacked the inheritance that a queen would have. And so the contrast becomes very significant when we get to the next verse. It's going to talk about her, the Shulamite, you being the one. Because he's saying, listen, there are all these queens, and these are women of status. They're the ones that the world thinks are everything. And then there's all these concubines. They don't even have what the queens have. But then there's you, okay?
One says after that, and maidens without number.
And maidens without number. And that's important. And we talked about this word back in chapter 1, because in the Hebrew it's alamot, which some translations will translate it virgins, and it has nothing to do with a virgin. It has to do with being a young maiden, okay? And so these are just young women. It has nothing to do with like emphasizing virginity. It has to do with being young, kind of being fresh, having potential in life, right? Same word that's used in other areas of Scripture, but it comes from a root word that has something to do with being hidden or being like concealed, almost like their married life is still going to be hidden in the future, right? So he's saying there's too many to count of those. There's a large group of queens, even more concubines, and more than we can even count of young maidens, right? And this really doesn't have anything to do with any of them in this verse. It's just to point to how incredible she is in the next verse to him. So that's just, this whole verse in verse 8 is about hyperbole or exaggeration, just making sure that you understand that your king sees that there are all of these others out there. But his bride, you are his one, period, end of story. So it's building anticipation for the next verse. Because then he says in verse 9, but my dove, my perfect one, is unique. And we'll just hold there and we'll unpack verse 9 next time. Does anybody want to add or ask anything? I'm sorry. I know, Barbara. I'm sorry. The only one. Yeah. I could not agree with you more, and I'm going to try not to be emotional. But, I've shared with you guys my experience with him. And standing there with him, you feel like you're it. Like you were it for him. And years after that, when I started hearing some other people's testimonies of like a near-death experience, they would say the same thing. Like, it was like I was the only one that existed for him. And that's amazing to me, and brilliant and beautiful. And then to begin to understand that he allows us to feel that kind of love so that we will carry it, to other people. But it's extraordinarily individual for us. I love that you said that. Shane, yeah. Owned. Yeah, they're objects, yeah. Right. Yeah, that's such a great question. In this, I think what he is showing is that just because they have an inheritance due to them does not mean that they have like the closeness of relationship that she has to him, and that's the relationship to be coveted. I mean, that is the one that he is undone by. Does that make sense? I can be saved. I can have an inheritance, but not really walk in relationship with him, not look at him, with affection, with desire, not bring him into my everyday world. Yeah. Remember how it said, like, this is my lover and this is my friend? It was like making sure that we understood that they had that kind of relationship. It's like that.
It's like a chosen remnant.
Yeah. Listen, it's 8:03. Do we want to unpack that? Okay, we'll circle back, Laura. Anything else, you guys?
Just make it Wednesday night sleepover.
Right. We will. We'll start doing a lock-in on Wednesday night. I love that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Concubines and maidens. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they just, and, are the queens and concubines and maidens, I love what you said, And are they even paying attention to him? I mean, she's paying attention to him. That's all she wants, that she is consumed with him. And so he's like, man, forget what the world sees as everything that's great to have. I just want the one that wants relationship with me. You know what? Like, that's the one that undoes me.
She got beaten for him.
And then didn't even care enough to say anything about it. You better believe I'd be crawling in whining about it.
Of course, you better choose her.
Right?
Someone go out and get beaten like a whore.
But in this world, we do face trials and tribulations.
Yes, we do.
And if you're really out there, you're going to have people come up against you.
Yep.
And that's just staying true in your life.
It is. It is. And then the question is, like, can we still choose love? When the world convinces us to hate or be angry or be prideful, you know, all those things, like, can we still choose to love? Anything else? Vince, you have a... Okay.
Every trial I've ever faced, He is my constant